General Marcus Thompson had made his position crystal clear during the morning briefing. Women don't have the physical strength, mental toughness, or killer instinct required for sniper operations. He'd been saying it for 20 years, and Staff Sergeant Everly Hayes had endured his dismissive comments for 6 months while being relegated to reconnaissance duties. But when enemy forces launched a coordinated assault on Forward Operating Base Phoenix at 0347 hours and 12 hostile snipers began systematically eliminating American personnel, General Thompson was about to discover that his most underestimated soldier was actually the deadliest marksman he had ever commanded. Staff Sergeant Everly Marie Hayes had become Thompson's unwitting test case for everything he believed about women in combat. Everly was 26 years old, a third-generation military soldier whose grandfather had served in Vietnam and whose father had been a Marine Corps sniper during the Gulf War. She'd grown up on military bases around the world, learned to shoot before she could ride a bicycle, and enlisted in the Army immediately after graduating from high school with a 4.0 GPA and acceptance letters to 3 universities. Her military qualifications were exceptional by any standard. She'd graduated first in her class from Army Sniper School, achieving scores on marksmanship tests that exceeded those of instructors with decades of experience. Her longest confirmed kill during training had been accomplished at 1,247 meters, under conditions that seasoned snipers described as impossible. She'd mastered advanced ballistics calculations, environmental compensation techniques, and tactical positioning strategies that typically took years to develop. But none of that mattered to General Thompson. From the moment Everly had been assigned to FOB Phoenix 6 months earlier, Thompson had made it clear that he didn't believe women belonged in combat roles, regardless of their qualifications or performance records. "Hayes," he'd announced during her first briefing, "I don't care what your training records show or what politically correct policies say about women in combat. Real warfare isn't a training exercise, and enemy snipers don't care about equal opportunity employment." Everly had stood at attention, maintaining professional composure, while Thompson delivered what amounted to a lecture about biological differences between men and women that supposedly made female soldiers inherently unsuitable for precision shooting under combat stress. "Women lack the upper body strength required for extended sniper operations," Thompson had continued, apparently unaware that modern sniper rifles weighed less than many pieces of equipment that female soldiers routinely carried during extended operations. "They don't have the emotional stability to make life or death decisions under extreme pressure, and they definitely don't possess the killer instinct necessary to eliminate human targets at long range." Instead of assigning Everly to the sniper team where her qualifications clearly belonged, Thompson had relegated her to reconnaissance duties that primarily involved map-making, patrol route planning, and equipment maintenance. For 6 months, she'd watched less qualified male soldiers receive sniper assignments while she was treated like a clerk who happened to be wearing combat fatigues. The other soldiers at FOB Phoenix had witnessed Thompson's treatment of Everly with varying degrees of discomfort and disagreement. Most of the enlisted personnel recognized that she was clearly qualified for combat duties, but military hierarchy meant that challenging a general's personnel decisions could end careers. Sergeant First Class Miguel Rodriguez, the base's senior sniper instructor, had tried multiple times to convince Thompson that Everly's skills were being wasted on reconnaissance duties. "Sir," Rodriguez had argued during a private meeting 3 months earlier, "Staff Sergeant Hayes has better marksmanship scores than anyone currently assigned to sniper operations. Her training evaluations are exceptional, and she's demonstrated tactical knowledge that exceeds some of our team leaders." Thompson's response had been predictably dismissive. "Rodriguez, I've been in combat operations since before that girl was born. Training scores don't mean anything when bullets start flying and people start dying. Women simply don't have what it takes to function effectively in high-stress combat situations. Sir, with respect, her stress evaluations during training were—" "Training," Thompson had interrupted, "is not the same as real combat. When enemy snipers are hunting American soldiers, I need people I can count on to make the hard decisions and execute under pressure. Women are too emotional, too hesitant, and too concerned with avoiding violence to be effective in sniper operations. Rodriguez had left that meeting understanding that Thompson's prejudices were more important to him than military effectiveness, but there was nothing a sergeant could do to change a general's fundamental beliefs about gender roles. The irony that would soon become apparent was that Thompson's assumptions about women in combat were about to be tested in the most dramatic way possible by someone who'd been sitting in his command for 6 months, waiting for an opportunity to prove that excellence has nothing to do with gender. The enemy assault on FOB Phoenix had been planned for months by a sophisticated intelligence network that had studied American operational patterns, identified key personnel, and developed a coordinated attack strategy designed to eliminate the base's command structure in a single devastating strike. 12 expert enemy snipers had infiltrated positions in the mountains surrounding the base, each one equipped with advanced rifles and detailed intelligence about American defensive positions. Their mission was simple: systematically eliminate key American personnel, starting with command staff and working through sniper teams, communication specialists, and anyone else capable of coordinating effective resistance. The attack began at exactly 0347 hours when the first enemy sniper fired a shot that killed the American sentry posted at the main entrance. Within seconds, additional shots began falling across the base as enemy marksmen engaged targets of opportunity with the precision and coordination that indicated extensive training and preparation. General Thompson had been in his command post reviewing intelligence reports when the first shots cracked across the base like thunder. As alarms began screaming and radio chatter exploded with reports of sniper fire, Thompson realized that his worst-case scenario was becoming reality. "Multiple sniper positions in the hills," came the urgent report from the base's observation post. "At least 10, possibly 12 enemy shooters with clear lines of sight to the entire base. They've got us pinned down from elevated positions." Thompson grabbed his radio and began issuing orders with the efficiency of someone who'd commanded troops through multiple combat deployments. "All personnel to defensive positions, sniper teams to overwatch positions, counter-sniper operations are priority 1. But as reports continued flooding in, Thompson realized the scope of the crisis. Enemy snipers had positioned themselves with overlapping fields of fire that covered every approach to defensive positions. American personnel attempting to move between buildings were being systematically eliminated by marksmen who seemed to anticipate every tactical response. "Sir," came the panicked voice of Lieutenant Colonel James Morrison, Thompson's deputy commander. "We've lost contact with Sniper Team Alpha. Team Bravo reports they can't reach overwatch positions without exposing themselves to enemy fire." Thompson felt the familiar weight of command responsibility as he processed tactical information that painted an increasingly desperate picture. 12 enemy snipers in elevated positions with unlimited ammunition and clear sight lines were turning his forward operating base into a killing field. "What about Team Charlie?" Thompson asked, referring to his most experienced sniper unit. "Pinned down in Building 7, Morrison reported. They've identified 3 enemy positions but can't get clear shots without exposing themselves to fire from the other 9. For the first time in his military career, General Thompson found himself in a situation where his hand-picked male sniper teams were unable to respond effectively to an enemy threat. The soldiers he'd trusted to handle precisely this type of crisis were trapped in defensive positions, outgunned and outmaneuvered by enemy marksmen who seemed to have planned for every American tactical response. That's when Staff Sergeant Everly Hayes appeared in the command post. She'd been in the armory conducting equipment inventory when the attack began, and she'd armed herself with her personal rifle, a weapon she'd been maintaining for 6 months while waiting for permission to use it in combat operations. "Sir," Everly said with the calm professionalism that Thompson had dismissed as lack of combat awareness, "request permission to engage enemy sniper positions." Thompson looked at her as if she'd just volunteered to perform brain surgery. "Hayes, this isn't a training exercise. We have 12 enemy snipers in prepared positions, systematically eliminating American personnel." "Yes, sir," Everly replied. "I can see 11 of their muzzle flashes from the command post windows. Range estimates between 400 and 900 meters, mostly elevated positions with limited escape routes. Thompson stared at her with growing irritation. Hayes, my experienced sniper teams can't get clear shots at these targets. What makes you think you can accomplish something that trained male snipers can't manage? Everly's response was delivered with the matter-of-fact tone of someone stating an obvious tactical reality. Sir, your sniper teams are trying to engage from predictable positions that the enemy has clearly planned for. I can reach firing positions that they haven't anticipated. Absolutely not, Thompson said with finality. I'm not sending a female soldier into a combat situation that my best male snipers can't handle. As if summoned by their conversation, another enemy sniper bullet shattered the window closest to Thompson's position, sending glass fragments across the command post and forcing everyone to take cover behind equipment and furniture. Sir, Morrison called from his position near the radio, we're taking casualties. Enemy snipers are engaging anyone who moves between buildings. We need effective counter-sniper operations immediately. Thompson realized that his philosophical opposition to women in combat was becoming a tactical liability that could cost American lives. But 28 years of military conditioning and personal prejudice made it almost impossible for him to consider that his most qualified sniper might be someone he'd spent 6 months dismissing as unfit for combat duty. Hayes, he said through gritted teeth, even if I were willing to consider your request, you've never operated under actual combat conditions. These enemy snipers are experienced professionals who've been planning this attack for months. Everly checked her rifle's scope settings with movements that were both precise and economical. Sir, enemy snipers are still human beings operating weapons that function according to predictable ballistic principles. Training doesn't become less relevant just because the targets are shooting back. Another enemy bullet struck the command post, this one punching through the wall just above Morrison's head and embedding itself in the communications equipment behind him. Jesus Christ, Morrison muttered, diving for better cover. They're targeting the command post specifically. Thompson realized that enemy snipers weren't just randomly engaging targets of opportunity. They were systematically eliminating key personnel and equipment that coordinated base defenses. The attack was more sophisticated and targeted than he'd initially understood. Sir, Everly said quietly, every minute we delay gives enemy snipers more opportunities to eliminate American personnel. I can end this engagement, but I need permission to engage immediately. Thompson looked at the woman he'd spent 6 months treating as a liability and realized that his options had been reduced to either accepting her assistance or watching enemy snipers systematically destroy his command. Hayes, he said with reluctance that was evident in every word, if I authorize this operation, you follow orders exactly. No improvisation, no heroics, and no putting yourself at unnecessary risk. Understood, sir. Thompson pulled out a tactical map and pointed to several positions that provided clear lines of sight to enemy sniper locations. Intelligence indicates at least 12 enemy positions in these areas. Our sniper teams have identified targets, but can't engage without exposing themselves to counterfire. Everly studied the map with the analytical focus of someone who'd spent years learning to process tactical information under pressure. Sir, the enemy positions form an overlapping network designed to provide mutual support. Standard counter-sniper tactics won't work because eliminating one target exposes the shooter to fire from multiple other positions. Exactly, Thompson said, which is why even my most experienced teams can't develop an effective engagement strategy. Everly traced patterns on the map with her finger, calculating angles and distances with the automatic precision of someone who'd spent thousands of hours studying ballistics and tactical positioning. Sir, the enemy's mutual support network is also their weakness. They're positioned to cover specific approaches and defensive positions, but they've left gaps that can be exploited if someone approaches from unexpected angles. Thompson studied her analysis with growing interest, despite his philosophical opposition to women in combat roles. What kind of unexpected angles? Building-to-building movement using structures for concealment, sir. Enemy snipers have positioned themselves to cover ground-level approaches and obvious sniper hides, but they can't simultaneously cover every possible firing position within the base perimeter. Morrison looked up from the radio where he'd been coordinating with trapped American units. Hayes, even if you can reach firing positions without being detected, you're talking about engaging 12 targets in rapid succession. Miss one, and they'll have your position triangulated immediately. Everly's response carried the confidence of someone who'd never missed a target that mattered. Sir, I don't miss. Thompson found himself in the surreal position of having his most fundamental military beliefs challenged by tactical necessity. Either he could maintain his prejudices about women in combat and watch enemy snipers continue eliminating American personnel, or he could authorize someone he'd dismissed as unqualified to attempt something his best male soldiers couldn't accomplish. Hayes, he said finally, you have authorization for independent sniper operations. But understand this, if you get yourself killed trying to prove a point about women in combat, I'll consider it a failure of judgment that validates everything I've said about female soldiers. Everly shouldered her rifle with movements that suddenly seemed more professional and competent than Thompson had previously noticed. Sir, I'm not trying to prove anything about women in combat. I'm trying to eliminate 12 enemy snipers who are killing American soldiers. She moved toward the command post exit with tactical awareness that impressed Morrison despite his own reservations about female soldiers in combat roles. Hayes, Thompson called as she reached the door. What's your engagement timeline? Everly paused to calculate her response. Sir, approximately 18 minutes to reach optimal firing positions and eliminate all 12 targets. Morrison stared at her with disbelief. 18 minutes? It took our Alpha team 40 minutes just to identify enemy positions. Sir, Everly replied with matter-of-fact confidence, Alpha team was approaching the problem incorrectly. After she left, Thompson and Morrison sat in silence, listening to the periodic crack of enemy sniper fire and radio reports of American casualties mounting steadily. General, Morrison said quietly, are we really betting the base's defense on a female soldier you've spent 6 months saying isn't qualified for combat duty? Thompson stared at the tactical map where Everly had traced her engagement strategy with what appeared to be genuine tactical expertise. Morrison, I've been wrong about a lot of things in my career. I'm hoping like hell that this isn't one of them. What happened over the next 18 minutes would redefine everything General Thompson thought he knew about combat effectiveness, gender roles in military operations, and the dangerous cost of assumptions that weren't based on actual capability. Everly Hayes moved through FOB Phoenix with the tactical precision of someone who'd spent years studying urban combat techniques and building-to-building movement. She'd been observing the base's layout during 6 months of reconnaissance duties, memorizing sight lines, cover positions, and structural details that most soldiers never noticed. Her first firing position was the maintenance building's second-floor window, which provided clear line of sight to 3 enemy sniper positions while remaining concealed from the other 9. She'd calculated that enemy snipers had positioned themselves to cover obvious approaches, but hadn't anticipated engagement from within the base perimeter, using structures for concealment. Everly settled into her shooting position with the methodical precision that had made her the highest-scoring graduate in Army sniper school history. Through her scope, she could see the first enemy sniper positioned approximately 647 meters away in a rocky outcropping that provided excellent concealment and clear shots at American defensive positions. Her breathing slowed to the controlled rhythm that allowed for precision shooting at extended ranges. She calculated wind speed, elevation differences, and target movement patterns while monitoring the positions of other enemy snipers who might detect her muzzle flash. The first shot broke with the crisp precision of a rifle that had been perfectly zeroed and maintained by someone who understood the relationship between equipment and accuracy. 647 meters away, the enemy sniper dropped from his position without ever realizing he'd been detected. Everly immediately shifted positions, moving to the communications building's roof access, where she'd calculated clear shots at 2 additional enemy positions. Her movement between firing positions was deliberate and economical, designed to avoid detection while maintaining tactical momentum. The second and third shots came within 90 seconds of each other, both finding their targets with the precision that had made enemy snipers suddenly realize they were being hunted by someone who understood their tactics better than they'd anticipated. In the command post, Thompson and Morrison listened to the distant crack of rifle fire that sounded different from the enemy weapons they'd been hearing for the past hour. "That's an American rifle," Morrison said with growing excitement. "M24 sniper system, probably Hayes." Thompson found himself torn between hoping she would succeed and dreading the implications if she did. Her success would validate everything he'd spent years arguing against, while her failure would confirm his beliefs but cost American lives. "Sir," came the radio report from one of the trapped sniper teams. "Enemy fire from positions 7, 9, and 11 has ceased. Someone's engaging hostiles from within the base perimeter." Everly continued her systematic elimination of enemy snipers with the methodical precision of someone executing a plan that had been calculated to account for multiple variables. Each shot required new firing positions, new calculations for range and environmental factors, and constant awareness of remaining enemy positions that could potentially detect her location. By the 12-minute mark, she'd eliminated 8 of the 12 enemy snipers while moving through firing positions that she'd identified during months of base reconnaissance. The remaining 4 enemy marksmen had realized they were being systematically hunted and had begun attempting to withdraw from their positions. That's when Everly demonstrated the tactical sophistication that separated exceptional snipers from merely competent ones. She'd anticipated that surviving enemy snipers would attempt withdrawal along specific routes that provided cover from American positions while allowing rapid movement toward extraction points. She'd positioned herself to intercept those withdrawal routes with shots that eliminated fleeing targets before they could escape or regroup. The final 4 enemy snipers were eliminated in rapid succession as they attempted to withdraw along routes that Everly had predicted and prepared for. Her understanding of tactical psychology and enemy decision-making had allowed her to position herself where fleeing snipers would be most vulnerable. At exactly 18 minutes after leaving the command post, Everly returned to report mission completion. "Sir," she announced with the same matter-of-fact tone she'd used to request permission for the operation, 12 enemy snipers eliminated. No American casualties during the engagement." Thompson stared at her with an expression that combined disbelief, admiration, and the dawning realization that everything he'd believed about women in combat had been catastrophically wrong. "Hayes," he said slowly, "are you telling me that you've eliminated 12 enemy snipers in 18 minutes using tactics that my experienced male teams couldn't develop?" "Sir, I used tactics that were appropriate for the specific tactical situation. The enemy had planned for conventional counter-sniper responses, but hadn't anticipated engagement from unconventional positions within the base perimeter." Morrison was reviewing radio reports from units across the base. "Sir, all American personnel report that enemy sniper fire has ceased entirely. No hostile contact for the past 6 minutes. Thompson walked to the shattered command post window and looked out across FOB Phoenix, where American soldiers were beginning to emerge from defensive positions for the first time in over an hour. The base that had been under siege by expert enemy marksmen was suddenly secure because of actions taken by someone he'd dismissed as unqualified for combat duty. "Hayes," Thompson said without turning around, "you've accomplished something that my best male snipers said was impossible." "Sir, it was never impossible. It just required someone willing to approach the problem differently than the enemy had anticipated." Thompson turned to face the woman who'd just redefined everything he thought he understood about military effectiveness. "Staff Sergeant Hayes, you've demonstrated tactical competence that exceeds most of the soldiers I've commanded in 28 years of military service." "Thank you, sir." "That wasn't a compliment," Thompson said with the weight of someone whose fundamental beliefs had been shattered by reality. "That was an acknowledgement that I've been wrong about female soldiers, wrong about your capabilities, and wrong about combat effectiveness in ways that could have cost American lives. Over the following hours, as incident reports were compiled and tactical analysis was conducted, the scope of Everly's achievement became clear to everyone at FOB Phoenix. 12 enemy snipers with extensive training and preparation had been eliminated by a single American soldier using tactics that demonstrated exceptional understanding of ballistics, tactical psychology, and urban combat techniques. Her success had broken a coordinated enemy assault that had pinned down an entire American base and threatened to eliminate key command personnel. But perhaps more significantly, her performance had demolished assumptions about gender roles in military operations that had influenced personnel decisions throughout Thompson's career. "Sir," Rodriguez approached Thompson the following morning, "about Staff Sergeant Hayes' assignment to reconnaissance duties." Thompson looked up from reports he'd been reviewing about the previous day's engagement. "Rodriguez, I think it's obvious that Hayes belongs in sniper operations, not reconnaissance." "Sir, what about your previous statements regarding women in combat roles?" Thompson considered the question with the humility of someone whose prejudices had been proven not just wrong, but dangerously counterproductive. "Rodriguez, yesterday I learned that my assumptions about women in combat have been preventing me from recognizing exceptional capability. Hayes didn't just eliminate 12 enemy snipers, she accomplished something that male soldiers with years of experience said couldn't be done." Over the following weeks, Thompson implemented policy changes that ensured personnel assignments would be based on demonstrated capability rather than gender-based assumptions. Everly was promoted to Sergeant First Class and assigned as the senior sniper instructor for the entire forward operating base. But the most significant change was in Thompson himself. The general who'd spent 28 years arguing that women lacked the capability for combat operations became an advocate for merit-based assignments and an opponent of policies that excluded qualified personnel based on gender. "The most dangerous enemy," Thompson would later tell military leadership conferences, "isn't the one shooting at you from a distance. It's the assumptions that prevent you from recognizing excellence when it's standing right in front of you." Everly Hayes continued serving at FOB Phoenix, training both male and female soldiers in advanced sniper techniques while conducting operations that consistently demonstrated the tactical expertise Thompson had failed to recognize for 6 months. Her success became a case study in military academies about the cost of assumptions and the importance of merit-based personnel decisions. But for the soldiers who'd been pinned down by enemy snipers, until she eliminated 12 targets in 18 minutes. She was simply the soldier who'd saved their lives when conventional tactics had failed. Sometimes the most dangerous assumptions are the ones that prevent us from recognizing exceptional capability. And sometimes the person you've spent months dismissing as unqualified is actually the most competent soldier you've ever commanded, waiting patiently for an opportunity to demonstrate that excellence has nothing to do with the stereotypes that limit our thinking. General Thompson learned that lesson the hard way, but he learned it completely, and every soldier who served under his command afterward benefited from his newfound understanding that capability, not gender, determines effectiveness in military operations. Have you ever witnessed someone's fundamental beliefs get completely overturned by undeniable evidence? Sometimes the most important lessons come from discovering that our assumptions about people's limitations are actually limitations in our own thinking. 6 months after the incident at FOB Phoenix, General Thompson received orders to address the Pentagon's Joint Chiefs of Staff about personnel policies and combat effectiveness. His presentation, titled "Overcoming Institutional Bias in Military Operations," became mandatory viewing for all senior military leadership. "Gentlemen," Thompson began his presentation, "I'm here to discuss the most dangerous enemy I've encountered in 28 years of military service. Not foreign adversaries or terrorist networks, but the assumptions that prevent us from utilizing our most capable personnel effectively." He clicked to a slide showing the tactical situation at FOB Phoenix. 6 months ago, 12 enemy snipers had my forward operating base pinned down. My hand-picked male sniper teams, with years of experience and excellent training records, were unable to develop effective counter-tactics. The next slide showed Everly's engagement timeline. The situation was resolved in 18 minutes by Staff Sergeant Everly Hayes, a female soldier I had relegated to reconnaissance duties because I believed women lacked the capability for precision combat operations. Thompson paused, allowing the implications to sink in among the assembled generals and admirals. For 6 months, I had the most capable sniper in my command filing paperwork and drawing maps because my prejudices prevented me from recognizing exceptional ability. The final section of his presentation detailed policy recommendations that had been implemented across all units under his command: merit-based assignments, blind capability assessments, and regular reviews of personnel utilization to ensure that qualified soldiers weren't being overlooked due to unconscious bias. The cost of assumptions, Thompson concluded, isn't just missed opportunities for individual soldiers. It's reduced combat effectiveness that can cost lives when missions depend on superior performance. Everly Hayes, now promoted to Master Sergeant and serving as the Army's premier sniper instructor, continued developing training programs that prepared soldiers for unconventional tactical challenges. Her techniques were studied and implemented across special operations units, while her story became a case study in leadership schools worldwide. But perhaps the most significant impact was on the hundreds of female soldiers who learned that exceptional performance could overcome institutional barriers, and that sometimes the most important victories happen when someone proves that capability has nothing to do with the stereotypes that others use to define limitations. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one.